Have you ever really thought about the secret history sitting on your dinner plate? I mean, every single fruit, vegetable, and grain you eat has been on this incredible journey through time and across continents just to get to you. So today, let's uncover the hidden story of where our food really comes from. Here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the raw material that makes all agriculture possible. Then we'll follow a brilliant scientist on his quest around the globe. We're going to map out the literal cradles of our crops, uncover a modern plot twist in the story, and finally see why protecting this ancient heritage is so important for all of us. All right, first things first, let's talk about the absolute foundation of our food supply. It's this incredible and often invisible treasure hidden right inside our crops, a treasure that honestly makes all of agriculture work in the first place. To get what I mean, let's take something we all know and love, pizza. Now, if I ask you where pizza comes from, you'd probably say Italy, right? And you're not wrong. But what about its ingredients? The wheat for the crust? Well, its story starts thousands of years ago in the Near East. And the tomatoes for the sauce? They were first grown thousands of miles away in the Andes Mountains of South America. That one dish on your plate is a delicious piece of global history. Now, the reason we have all these different types of tomatoes, big ones, small ones, red, yellow, or wheat that can grow in all sorts of climates, is because of one crucial concept: genetic diversity. It's the sum of all the different genes and traits within a species. Think of it like nature's toolkit. This diversity is what allows us to breed new crops that can fight off pests, resist diseases, and, adapt to a changing world. It's everything. So how did we even begin to understand this global map of our food? Well, we can thank one man for that. And this brings us to the hero of our story, Nikolai Vavilov, a brilliant Russian botanist who went on an epic, world-changing mission. See, back in the 1920s, Vavilov believed the key to food security, to feeding his people after famine and hardship, was to collect all of the world's crop diversity. And he went all in. He and his team launched this massive effort, conducting over 100 expeditions across 5 continents. They were venturing into remote mountains and ancient villages, all to gather the very building blocks of agriculture. And for 2 decades, Vavilov wasn't just collecting seeds, he was piecing together a giant puzzle. By 1926, he published his game-changing theory. And by 1935, he had refined it into this clear, elegant map of where our food actually began. Vavilov's revolutionary idea was this: if you could find the one geographical spot where a crop showed the most variety, the most shapes, sizes, colors, all of it, then you had found its center of origin. You had found the exact place where it was first domesticated from its wild ancestors. Pretty brilliant, right? So let's actually see what this theory looks like. Vavilov took all his research and turned it into a world map, a visual guide to the 8 primary cradles of agriculture where our most important crops were born. And here it is. Vavilov's map showed these 8 primary centers. And he noticed something really interesting. They weren't just random spots. They were almost always in mountainous regions, places that were naturally cut off by deserts or seas. This isolation allowed these unique agricultural systems to develop over thousands of years. And just look at the amazing variety that came from these places. From the Chinese center, we got soybeans and peaches. Over in the Hindustan center, we get rice and mangoes. Central America gave us maize and sweet potatoes. And those potatoes and tomatoes we all love, thank the South American center for that. Wheat and apples, that's the Asia Minor center. Our entire global diet is a direct legacy of these incredible, distinct regions. Okay, so for decades, Vavilov's theory was basically gospel in the world of agriculture. But as science and genetics got more advanced, a really fascinating plot twist emerged, one that added a whole new layer to the story. Vavilov's view was pretty simple. The center of origin is the center of diversity. Same place. But the modern view, which is backed up by some serious genetic detective work, makes a really important distinction. The center of origin is the crop's birthplace, for sure. But its center of diversity, the place with the most genetic variation, can sometimes be thousands of miles away. So how on earth is that possible? Well, the answer is this powerful little process called gene flow. It works like this. First, a crop gets domesticated in its center of origin. Step 2, humans start migrating and they take the crop with them. Then, in its new home, the domesticated crop starts cross-pollinating with its local wild cousins. And boom, this hybridization creates a burst of brand new genetic combinations, turning that new location into a vibrant center of diversity. And if you want a perfect example of this, just look at emmer wheat. Modern research has found that domesticated emmer wheat is an incredible 129% more genetically diverse than the wild population it came from in Turkey. It sounds like a total paradox, right? But it's the ultimate proof of gene flow. After that crop left home, it met new wild relatives on its journey and actually became even more genetically rich. So here's the bottom line. Vavilov was an absolute visionary who pointed us in the right direction. But now we know that a crop's journey after it was domesticated can be just as important as where it started. The biggest library of genes for a crop might not be at its birthplace, but somewhere it continued to evolve and mix it up. Okay, so this whole origin versus diversity thing isn't just a fun fact for botanists. It has huge implications for how we protect this priceless genetic heritage for the future of our food supply. You see, the biggest threat we face today is something called genetic erosion. This is the permanent, irreversible loss of that precious diversity we've been talking about. It's the disappearance of unique, traditional crop varieties. Scientists call them land races, and their super important wild relatives. And what's causing this? Well, it's a few big forces in our modern world. As global farming starts to favor just a few uniform, high-yielding crops, thousands of those diverse local varieties just get abandoned and lost. At the same time, the homes of their wild relatives are being destroyed by development and pollution. It's like we're tearing pages out of nature's toolkit before we've even had a chance to read them. But there is hope, and Vavilov's legacy actually gives us the blueprint for the solution. His original mission to collect and preserve crop diversity has grown into a global network of institutions. These are the modern-day arcs for our agricultural heritage, gene banks. And these gene banks are absolutely vital. They go out and acquire and safely store seeds and plants from all over the world. But they don't just lock them away. They study them, looking for useful traits like drought tolerance or disease resistance. Then, they make these genetic resources available to the breeders who are working to create the resilient crops we need. They are literally our insurance policy for a secure food future. Which brings us to our final big question. As our climate keeps changing and our population keeps growing, we are going to desperately need to breed tougher, more nutritious, and more productive crops. The genes to build those supercrops aren't going to be invented in a lab. They're already out there, waiting to be rediscovered, hidden in those ancient crop varieties and their wild relatives that people like Vavilov had the incredible foresight to save. The future of our food really does lie in its past.